morning. Boy, we're not in the Midwest anymore. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. To His Excellency, Hussein Nasir Luta, thank you so much for having us in your fine city. It's a pleasure to be here and to explore the many wonders. Anthony Wood, Executive Director of Ctbuh, thank you so much. And to David Scott, Chairman of Ctbuh, thanks for having us. Unfortunately, Mayor Daley couldn't be here, so I'm representing him. But I'm very happy to be here on his behalf. In Chicago, we are honored and proud to have Ctbuh headquartered. We learn a lot from Ctbuh, and I'm glad to be participating. I'm personally honored to be here to share with you some of the lessons we've learned in our attempts to make Chicago the greenest city in America. But before I do that, I'd like to share with you my first experience of greening cities, a personal experience. I graduated from a liberal arts college where I focused on urban environmental studies. I was trying to decide whether to get a PhD or what to do with my life. My advisor told me, we don't have time for that the environmental crisis was too close and that I should go straight to work. So I did that. My wife and I decided we'd move to Cleveland, Ohio, in the Midwest in Chicago, in Ohio. The first thing we did was move into a not-so-good part of town. When we purchased the home, there was 2 feet of snow on the ground, hard to imagine when you're here in Dubai. We decided that as soon as it melted, we would make the backyard into a garden, an urban utopia with organic food production. When the snow finally did melt, about 2 months later, we discovered that the entire backyard was concrete. Not one grain of soil to be found. So we went and rented jackhammers. And I'm not a big guy. The jackhammer weighed more than I did. After 2 hours of working, I'd hardly removed 10% of the material out there. I'd taken a little corner of the yard up. But I think it was the sight of my wife trying to use the jackhammer that brought our neighbors over to help. They were extremely different from us, and I must admit, we were quite skeptical of them. They were steel workers. We were liberal arts college graduates. They were very big hunters. They actually made their own bullets, believe it or not. So you can imagine how two liberal arts vegetarian pacifists would feel about these neighbors. We couldn't have been more different from them. But for the next 2 days, they worked the jackhammer in our backyard to remove all of the concrete. When it was all done, I asked if we needed to pay them. I couldn't understand why they would do this for us. The father of the family laughed and said no, that it was what neighbors in the city do. They take care of each other. He laughed again and said that what he thought was strange was that when they moved in 45 years ago, they paved their entire backyard. And now we moved in and de-paved the entire backyard. Over the next several years, his grandchildren would come over and pick peaches off of our newly planted peach trees. This early lesson in urban greening taught me that real urban greening isn't about the green buildings or the new urban infrastructure, it's about the community. Our challenges as designers and policymakers is design communities that make it easy for people to take care of each other and to take care of the planet. As we know, cities have been seen as significant environmental problems, perhaps the global environmental problem. For many years, cities in America turned away from nature. They used the rivers as open sewers. They used their waterfronts for industry. They've been places of concrete and steel, places you have to leave in order to find nature. The perception of this problem has grown as urban populations have increased. Now approximately half of the world's population and over 80% of Americans live in urban areas. While urban areas take up just 2% of the Earth's surface, they account for about 75% of industrial wood use, 60% of the water withdrawn for human use, and 75% of world energy use. They also produce over 70% of the world's greenhouse gases. Recently, though, people have realized that cities are actually more environmentally sound places to live. We've realized that the Earth's resources could never support the billions of people currently living in cities if they were to scatter across the countryside. In cities, people can drive less. They can take public transportation, walk or bike to stores, school, and work. In the US, 49% of all car trips are less than 2 miles. So the close proximity of life's necessities in cities enables city dwellers to have a significantly lower carbon footprint than suburban and rural dwellers. The density of urban living also means that people live in smaller homes or apartments, meaning less resources are needed to power our homes. With these realizations, the influence of cities, and in particular, city governments, in shaping the carbon intensity of the world economy is coming into sharp focus. Much attention is now being placed on cities' role in driving solutions to climate change. This potential influence is matched by the level of risk to which many cities are exposed in a warming world. Coastal cities like New York and Shanghai are threatened by sea level rise, while others are suffering from exacerbation of the urban heat island effect and pressures on already stretched water supplies. It's nothing worse than being in city government and getting 20,000 calls of flooded basements over one weekend. It's now become clear that cities will be key to alleviating the climate crisis, and that cities and urban dwellers can benefit from addressing climate changes proactively. New organizations like the Clinton Climate Initiative are mobilizing to help cities solve their environmental challenges, grow their economies, and improve the quality of life for their residents. And the cost of cutting greenhouse gases is likely to be significantly lower than the costs associated with the impacts of climate change. Cities clearly play a significant role in solving climate change. In the US, over 700 cities have signed on to the Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement, committing to reduction levels equivalent to those outlined in the Kyoto Protocol. In Chicago, Mayor Richard Daley has worked to address this issue for years. He has recognized that addressing environmental issues proactively can improve quality of life and increase our competitive advantage while reducing our impact on the planet. Chicago serves as a great place to explore greening, given our long legacy, focus on design, and existing infrastructure. In 1908, Chicago's leaders declared their intention to maintain the waterfront for public use, rather than turn it over to commerce and industry, as many other cities have done. Today, Lake Michigan remains Chicago's most valuable natural resource, and 20% of the world's fresh surface water. It provides recreation, drinking water, and great natural beauty. And it serves as a constant reminder of our obligation to live in harmony with nature. Our lakefront has become a magnet for residents and visitors alike. Today, we have 33 beaches, 5,200 public boat slips, a 26-mile lakefront bike path, and of course, acres of parkland stretching from Indiana to Evanston. Over the last 10 years, we've taken steps to make our downtown lakefront even more attractive and exciting. The west side of Chicago's Loop used to have a big hole in it. A 16-acre eyesore of railroad tracks and makeshift parking lots. We've converted that hole into Millennium Park, a showplace of architecture and the arts that opened last summer, or several summers ago, to worldwide acclaim. Millennium Park is a 24-acre green roof. It was created with both public and private funding. It includes the Pritzker Pavilion, designed by Frank Gehry. It's the permanent home of the Grant Park Orchestra and Chorus, and the most spectacular outdoor concert venue in the United States. Connected to the pavilion is the BP Bridge, the only bridge Gehry has designed. Probably the most popular artwork in Millennium Park is Cloud Gate, by the British artist Anish Kapoor. It's one of the world's largest outdoor sculptures, and it invites visitors to touch its mirror-like surface, which reflects their images, as well as the Chicago skyline. The Crown Fountain is designed by Spanish artist Plensa. Consists of 2 towers that project images of nature, as well as faces of more than 1,000 Chicagoans on underlying screens. Visitors, especially children, are invited to walk through the shallow pool that separates the 2 fountains. The park also features the Lurie Garden by American landscape architect Catherine Gustafson. The McCormick Tribune Ice Rink provides a setting for public skating with beautiful views of the Chicago skyline. Finally, Millennium Park features a state-of-the-art bicycle station, the first of its kind in the Midwest and one of the biggest in the nation. The structure contains more than 300 bicycle parking spaces, spacious locker rooms with individual shower stalls, bike repair and rental facilities. Its 120 solar panels generate some of the electricity needed to power the facility. We've learned that a beautiful city inspires residents. We've learned that a beautiful lakefront attracts visitors. We've learned that people want to raise their families in a beautiful city, where you can swim at the beach, where over 80 miles of planted medians make the streets beautiful and pedestrian-friendly, where over 500,000 trees have been planted to cool and filter the air. We've learned a lot. Chicago has long been an innovator in design, not just in our landscapes, but also in architecture. The elevator was developed in Chicago, paving the way for the first skyscraper in the world, a home insurance building built in 1884. This innovation in tall buildings continues with the current construction of Calatrava's Spire, soon to be North America's tallest building and the tallest residential building in the world. Naturally, it's going to be LEED certified. Chicago has clearly been an innovator in parks, landscaping, and architecture. Time and time again, Chicago has helped to redefine technology and urban design. Under Mayor Daley's leadership, we have now undertaken a new set of tasks, learning to make the beauty work for us, to engage nature rather than fight it, and to use ecological design to do the work of the city. In our quest to build a green city, we have already learned a few lessons that I'd like to share with you. This innovation in urban design is using green technology to improve the quality of life and to solve environmental problems both in our city and around the world. We've learned, however, that these strategies are most effective when used to solve specific environmental problems. For example, we are mapping urban heat island problems within the city. We identify the neighborhoods with the most extreme heat problems and then use green technology, neighborhood by neighborhood, street by street, block by block, to cool these areas. Sometimes these solutions are as simple as planting a bunch of trees. This is the route for the LaSalle Marathon, LaSalle Bank. Identifying that their route went through an urban heat island helped us by planting many trees in that route. Other times these solutions are giving grants for green roofs or grants for reflective roofs to help homeowners and businesses help to cool their neighborhoods. We've learned that we must have leadership within city government, recognizing that all city departments need a plan and a process to ensure that they are taking advantage of environmental strategies. Mayor Daley launched the city's first comprehensive environmental action agenda. This agenda, which was developed by a committee of 20 cabinet members, outlines ways that we can green our operations and ways that we can use our processes to engage the private sector to go green. We've learned that there are great opportunities in greening the forgotten places, the forgotten spaces of our city. Chicago is America's pioneer in green roofs. We installed one on the roof of City Hall 8 years ago. It includes native plants and even beehives. We harvest the honey and sell it to support our after-school arts program, Gallery 37. Now, more than 400 green roofs covering over 4 million square feet have been constructed. or are planned on top of schools, parking garages, museums, and even retail establishments such as, believe it or not, McDonald's and the Apple Store in Chicago. These once forgotten or neglected spaces on our rooftops are now beautiful and productive areas. These gardens lower temperature in the summer and reduce the amount of energy needed to cool our buildings. They also absorb stormwater and put it to good use. We now require that any development that receives any financial or other support from the city must be constructed as a green development. We've learned that we must reinvent the places that have been abandoned. Chicago has created the most aggressive program in the nation to transform brownfields into new industrial facilities, green spaces, affordable housing, and new technology and manufacturing centers. Since its inception, our brownfield program has helped the city increase its tax base and create and retain more than 3,000 jobs in Chicago. We've learned that we must prepare our workers for the greening of the economy. In 2005, there were 5.3 million jobs and about $341 billion in industry sales in the green sector. These jobs are growing as more cities, businesses, and residents adopt more environmentally friendly lifestyles. So we're promoting green-collar jobs through our Green Corps program. This program aims to train just a few of the over 20,000 people coming to Chicago straight from prison each year. During their training, they help to build community gardens throughout the city. They weatherize homes, and they refurbish computers that would otherwise go to the landfill. We've learned the city must lead by example, and we must share our lessons. One of our most successful brownfield projects is our Center for Green Technology, which opened in 2002 on a former illegal dump site. This was the first municipal building in the world to receive the LEED Platinum rating, the highest possible rating from the U.S. Green Building Council. Its tenants include an environmentally friendly furniture maker, a green building resource center that's open to the public, with over 400 free education programs every year on green building and green technology. This is one of the most comprehensive green building educational facilities in the country. More than a third of the building is made from recycled materials. Solar panels provide 40% of the power. A ground source heat pump uses the temperature of the earth for heating and cooling, and natural light reduces the need for electricity. The roof and the grounds are designed to reduce stormwater runoff by absorbing as much rainwater as possible or storing it for reuse. We've learned that solutions to climate change will inevitably require new ways of producing energy. In Chicago, we've learned to utilize the city's purchasing power to attract 2 solar panel manufacturers to the city. SolarGenics produces solar thermal panels for installation on city facilities, such as fire stations like this one. We now have over 2 megawatts of solar generating capacity in the city of Chicago on museums, schools, and city facilities. We recently even changed the zoning code in Chicago to support wind power generation and are seeing more small-scale wind generation across the city on homes and businesses. We've learned that we must build green buildings. Several years ago, the mayor implemented a green building agenda, which outlines a new set of environmentally friendly construction standards for public buildings that will ensure healthier environments indoors and outdoors, reduced operating costs, and increased energy conservation. We call it the Chicago Standard, and it's our commitment to build all city facilities to assure they are LEED Silver certified by the U.S. Green Building Council. We have over 40 city buildings underway that have or will achieve certification, including libraries, schools, police stations, and all other city construction projects. We've learned that affordable housing isn't affordable if people can't afford to heat and cool it. To showcase green residential development, the city financed the restoration and retrofitting of several green bungalow blocks with geothermal heating and cooling, insulation made from blue jeans, and innovative ways to reuse rainwater. In the first year, each home has saved over $700 in utility costs. The mayor then created a grant program to help all bungalow owners integrate these strategies into their own homes. We also hosted an international design competition to design 5 affordable green residences, which were built and sold. They also serve as models for us in creating requirements that all affordable homes are built green. We use these demonstration projects to influence the construction of the CHA construction program, over 25,000 units that are being built or renovated. We've supported single-room occupancy developments, such as the Helmut Jahn designed supportive housing project, photographed here, which provides housing for people coming straight off of the streets. It produces energy with building integrated wind turbines and solar thermal panels. It also filters water from sinks and showers and uses it for flushing toilets. After years of the city leading by example, more developers are now building green residences, such as 340 on the Park, which was certified LEED Silver. It was built to capture stormwater for irrigation, increase energy efficiency, and recycled over 80% of the construction waste. We then created an ordinance that mandates a minimum of 50% construction site recycling for all larger developments. We've learned that we can utilize our infrastructural investments to take better advantage of nature too. Instead of fighting to capture and treat all of the stormwater, we now work to use rainwater productively from our green alleys. With high albedo permeable pavement to our new LEED certified convention center. It captures 55 million gallons of stormwater each year from the roofs and directs it into the lake instead of the storm sewer system where we have to pay for electricity to pump the water and chemicals to treat it. We've learned that we must green our own operations as well. With over 11,000 units on and off the road, Chicago's fleet is the largest fleet in the U.S. We have hundreds of vehicles powered by alternative fuels, including compressed natural gas, ethanol, biodiesel, and electricity. We're purchasing hybrid cars and buses, and we're retrofitting our older vehicles to reduce 80% of their particulate emissions. We're also working to build green fueling stations that not only use alternative fuels, but are powered by solar power. They absorb stormwater using green infrastructure such as bioswales. We've learned that we not only have to design with nature, but we have to design for nature. So we convened a summit with architects, engineers, glass manufacturers, ornithologists, and others to develop bird-friendly building guidelines for the city of Chicago. In 2006, Mayor Daley launched his comprehensive bird agenda, which outlines our strategy for supporting birds in the city of Chicago. While we've accomplished a lot in making Chicago a green city, we also recognize that we still have a long, long way to go, and many more lessons to learn. We're currently completing our comprehensive climate change plan for the city of Chicago. We've learned that the city cannot do it alone. With over 70% of emissions coming from energy used in or by buildings, it has become increasingly clear that we need the private sector to follow the city's lead. So we created a green building permit program. All buildings that meet our environmental criteria are offered a building permit in 30 days instead of up to 100 days for the regular permit process. We'll give up to $25,000 of permit fee waivers. We even give a sign that signifies the project as a green project in the city of Chicago. Through this program, many new buildings are electing to achieve LEED certification. We now have more buildings registered to achieve LEED certification than any other city in the world, and have 4 LEED Platinum buildings already completed and certified. Buildings such as 111 South Wacker, a green office tower, and the Center on Halsted, a community gathering facility, are already constructed, while others are nearing completion, such as the Loyola Student Commons, which utilizes its prime lakefront location to capture breezes for cooling. One of the more exciting city facilities currently being designed by Jeannie Gang is the Ford Calumet Environmental Center. It's designed to celebrate nature and industry in the coming of those two together in Chicago. Through various incentives, we can encourage most new buildings to be constructed to achieve LEED certification as a minimum. But like most older cities, we have many existing buildings. It is these buildings that use most of our natural resources. We've learned that we will not achieve our climate change goals we will not achieve our climate change goals of 25% reduction by 2020 and 80% reduction by 2050 over our 1990 levels without working with these existing buildings to reduce their impact. We've created new TIF districts to help them do that. So we're now working with our two highest profile existing buildings to create models for the world to learn from. Last November, the Merchandise Mart, which remains the largest privately owned building in the world, became the largest LEED EB certified building in the world. They're completing lighting retrofits, changing out water fixtures, and even installing green roofs. They estimate a 12% annual savings in operating costs for the facility as a result of undertaking this work. Perhaps one of the most recognizable buildings in the world, the Sears Tower, is also going green. The building has completed numerous energy retrofits with an annual savings of over $2.5 million in energy costs. Led by Adrian Smith, Gordon Gill Architects, they are now implementing an entire green makeover of the building. They've recently installed the tallest green roof in the world, where they are testing various ways to keep it secured to the roof. That's one story we don't want. The next phase of this work will include installation of wind turbines to offset the building's energy usage. Just as Burnham's 1909 plan for Chicago gave birth to modern city planning, we hope to establish a new way of thinking about city planning in the future, one that favors both development and environmental sustainability. This effort is not based simply on idealism. Going green makes sense economically and politically. I've never understood why people think the cost of business or of government will go up if we protect the environment. Actually, the opposite is true. When we use less energy, we save money. If we can lower the citywide temperature 1 degree through green methods, we can save $150 million a year in energy costs. When a city exists in harmony with its environment, it simply looks better and feels better, and that shows up at the cash register. People like to shop on pleasant streets. They'll pay more for a house if it's in an attractive neighborhood. The tourism and convention industry benefits as well, and that's a $9 billion a year business in Chicago. We've learned that there really is no downside when it comes to protecting the environment. It improves public health, it beautifies the city, it saves money, it creates jobs, and it improves the quality of life for Chicagoans. And our quality of life, in turn, attracts well-educated, young professionals who can work almost anywhere they like. Because in today's economy, jobs tend to follow people rather than the other way around. I look forward to learning more over the next several days, and I thank Ctbuh for holding this important meeting. Thank you very much.